Prime Video's The Boys creator, Eric Kripke, made headlines recently when he stated he was fine losing viewers who just figured out his social agenda, and then told those who were upset to go watch something else. Now, the show's always been a satirical look at right-wing conservatives. This fourth season makes it blatantly obvious. So who's ready to watch? The world is on the brink. Victoria Neuman is closer than ever to the Oval Office and under the muscly thumb of Homelander, who is consolidating his power. Butcher, with only months to live, has lost Becca's son and his job as the boys' leader, and the rest of the team is fed up with his lies. With the stakes higher than ever, they have to find a way to work together and save the world before it's too late. So I think it's getting more and more difficult to find shocking ways to top each season. We've had the miniature cocaine-induced sneeze explosion, there was Herogasm, and a few other choice extreme sequences. But even still, this fourth season does manage to figure out a few ways that make you cackle out loud at some of the horrifyingly creative moments. Now, we're getting 8-hour-ish long episodes, with the first 3 dropping all at once, and then once a week for the rest of the run. Now, the storyline for this season, it's following the presidential election within the US, and Singer and Neuman seemingly a shoo-in for the win. And we get to watch so much rhetoric plastered across the headlines of all the news outlets, especially the VOT network, mimicking so many talking points that those of us in the US have seen and heard over the last several years. Now, there are the introduction of a few new soups this season, and one in particular is just the right balance of hillbilly, seductress, and conspiracy theorist. Now, the show manages to strike all the right chords that can trigger a sort of PTSD in anyone who has been paying attention to the crap show that has been going on in this country. Anthony Starr continues to make skin crawl as Homelander because, as we watched at the end of Season 3, he committed an atrocity in front of everyone, and instead of his sycophants being appalled, they cheered him on even more, emboldening him to no longer hide any false morality and show the world who he's been the entire time, which is this narcissistic fascist. Now, the way Homelander wields power in this season, it is unhinged and certainly steeped in madness. We don't really get those Gollum moments like we did before, where he's arguing with himself, going back and forth in his good versus bad mentality. I mean, he doesn't need to. And then, with this season's arc, we also get to see how all of this is affecting Ryan. Now, Cameron Cravetti as Ryan, he's doing an excellent job in the role. He's got the moody teen down perfectly. But what's harder is to showcase the inner turmoil and conflict that comes about from seeing his dad for who he is and the struggle of whether or not to embrace the nepotistic role that comes just with the privilege of being Homelander's son. I was really digging how so much of the arc for the overall season involved the idea of family. And we've always watched some semblance of that just within the boys group, maybe to a degree even with the Seven, even though that one is way more unhealthy. But the familial theme runs deep this time, and it provides some opportunities for us to see emotional depth from several of the cast. Now, Jack Quaid has a heartfelt and tremendous sub-story that has the potential to gut you, all while including the show's characteristic brutality. He gets to express some things that last well beyond the scene, and then are made even more impactful as the emotions reverberate in small ways throughout the remaining episodes. Now, Erin Moriarty also has a moment. Hers is through a devastating set of circumstances, which then are even more rough thanks to family situations. And I also like how her religious background is re-engaged in the narrative to add just that extra special oomph in the form of a gut punch, mirroring once again the convoluted religious fervor that we can witness in the US. It's a harsh reality check, but one that will hopefully help anybody asleep at the wheel to wake up and pay attention. Even Butcher, Neuman, Mother's Milk, Kimiko, and Frenchie, they all have influences in the storylines that touch on a family dynamic. Now, not all of them get the attention that maybe they deserve, but we still get enough to understand context that adds some depth to each of their arcs. Now, I think the show has been getting progressively less subtle in its satire and commentary as each season arrives. This is by far the most blatant one that uses exact talking points and even scenarios to point out all the large and small ways that the US is headed towards a fascist regime. And probably the largest difference is that those who are pushing for the extremist dictatorship type of rule, they're much more well-spoken and coherent in their thoughts than what we get to witness on the daily here in real life. Now, there are very recent events that even make their way into the storyline, and while not all of the outcomes mirror our reality, they do add the appropriate level of twisted drama and wit. I also love how nothing is seemingly taboo. If the show can rattle your cage, it's gonna try. Whether that's through shocking imagery, maniacally uncomfortable situations, or simply having characters do something unimaginable. This will go there, but always with a purpose. I mean, at no point during the season, even if I was disgusted or horrified by what I was seeing, I never felt that the content was outrageous just because it could be. It was always pointing to a dogma or action or attitude that benefited the larger arc. And if it could turn your stomach in the process, well, all the better. Now, I mentioned at the very beginning that it's going to get difficult for the show to continue to top itself in those over-the-top moments. Not just with violence, but also in the scenarios. I mean, for the savagery, this still does not pull any punches, showcasing all types of gruesome barbarity. It's not uncommon at all to watch people explode, or for parts of them to explode, giving us many similar scenes that we could recently have watched in the movie Abigail. And I know that this isn't unique to the show or even this season. I mean, they've always pushed the boundaries when it comes to guts and gore. And in this season, a lot of the time, the inhumanity we watch is sudden and abrupt, adding excitement, but also some surprise. And there are also some good fights this time. While the choreography is excellent and the camera work puts us right into the fray, the battles themselves typically don't showcase much in the way of uniqueness. Again, though, that's not to say that we don't get some wonderful sequences of mayhem. Episodes 3 and 5, they might make you laugh out loud, while other episodes could make you tear up. Each, though, is drenched in tremendous violence. And there are a lot of moving parts to this season, but it's mainly streamlined. On one side, we're watching Homelander work his plan, shifting the pieces into place, all while also shedding any facade of humanity. The star, he is convincing, and it makes it incredibly hard for me to see him in something else and not see the character of Homelander. I mean, the looks of deranged glee and satisfaction that he gives once he's executed some lunatic action, they're freaky and chilling. I mean, there's just nothing in his eyes reflecting any sort of soul, which then makes him all the more terrifying as a potential despot. Now, I think the narrative can feel a little monotonous and slow throughout the episodes because while there is action and exciting drama, the story progression itself, it just kind of inches along. We watch a lot of scheming and planning, and then of course people dying in terrific ways, but it doesn't always feel like much has been accomplished. Now, I had the opportunity to binge the entire season, so I got the continuity and energy from one episode to the next. But I'm afraid that some of this might be lost in the week to week. I mean, the first 3 episodes, they're dropping all at once, and it's a great move, which allows everybody who is a fan to get invested in the story and then hopefully have their appetite whetted so that they can't wait for the next one. Now, I don't know how many of you watch Gen V, but this season does use that show in a minor way to connect the two so that they don't feel like just standalone projects. And you don't have to have seen Gen V for this to make sense, but it can help a bit. The intersecting storyline, it's brief, but still important, especially as we watch where the show is headed. So overall, if you've been a fan of The Boys, the show continues to deliver its pull-no-punches approach to satirizing the far-right conservatives and Christian nationalists within the U.S. Anthony Starr once more creates a terrifyingly relatable tyrant, solely focused on indomitable power and control. With impressive effects, the season fully executes its gruesome vision through disgusting imagery and relentless savagery. The violence is unflinching and it's gory, but reinforces the dire warning of impending fascism and the terrors that brings if those who can make a change are asleep at the wheel. The interwoven theme of family is deep and impactful, focusing on several facets that can make you cringe, laugh, sometimes cry. While the storytelling can feel slow if watching week to week thanks to patient story progression, the content itself is worth the investment. And even though some of the nuance has been lost this season, choosing a more direct and loud presentation of the message, the sentiments are clear and sometimes need to be shouted for the people in the back who aren't as quick to catch on. There's a bunch of sex and nudity, almost non-stop profanity, and then a staggering amount of ferocious violence. I give season 4 of The Boys 4 out of 5 couches. So who's your favorite character? I think mine is still Kimiko, but let me know yours in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.